With regard to residencies, I highly encourage you, if you are able, to apply for artist residencies, preferably outside of your hometown. I think that they can be incredibly beneficial to your practice, to your growth as an artist. It is a great opportunity to build relationships and network with peers who live in other parts of the country, or even internationally. And it also is a great opportunity for you to meet art professionals outside of your hometown. And you never know what opportunities could arise in the future from these connections that you're making at artist residencies. And I know it can be challenging for people who have families or have day jobs to find the time to do an artist residency. Of course, I totally recognize that. But if you are able to do it, I have noticed that there are more residencies now that are offering shorter time periods, so they're a little more manageable for people. I've even seen 2 weeks, which, I think there are pluses and minuses to that. I think it's hard to dig in and really get the full benefit if you're only there for a couple of weeks. But if that's your, what you've got time-wise, I think it can still be of benefit just to be making all of those connections and just broadening your reach to different people. The other thing I want to mention about residencies, and this goes for open calls, awards, grants, I think it's really good practice to regularly apply for these things. I've noticed that there are kind of two main time periods in which there are a lot of applications due, and it's usually kind of January, February, and then September, October-ish. So kind of keep an eye out for those time frames. There are a lot of great resources online and on Instagram that repost opportunities. I try to repost opportunities when I see them. But I think the process of applying is good for you in a number of ways. First, it allows you to reflect on your practice. It forces you to think about how to talk about your work, which is so, so important, and how to write about it. And it allows you to look at where you've been and what you've done since the last time you wrote an application, and you can kind of see yourself growing and changing, and it's a really nice kind of reflection point to sort of take stock of where you are and what you've accomplished. And the other big thing about the application process is that when you apply to any of these opportunities, your work is getting in front of important eyeballs that you would maybe not get your work in front of otherwise as easily. So, curators, gallerists, collectors, museum professionals, art advisors, the entire ecosystem of the art world, peer artists, they're the ones who are vetting these applications. And so putting your work out there, and put your best foot forward. Do not submit a half-assed application. You really have to do the work. You have to really work hard to put forward your best possible application for each of these things that you do. But just getting your work and your words about your work in front of as many other people as possible is such a benefit. Yeah.
I can attest to that because
good.
I apply to so much stuff and get rejected from most of it, but I applied for a solo show. It was up in upstate New York, did not get it, but the curator reached out to me and put me into another group show so I was like, wow.
Yes, it works.
You always hear that.
It's real. Yeah.
And with residencies and all that stuff, a lot of times the juries change every year. So
that's true. To keep going.
Update your work, but know
yes.
that you, and sometimes you can ask for feedback too. I've done that, and that's been really valuable.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Can you give me feedback on why,
Yeah.
And most of the time they don't, but sometimes they do, and it's really
But it's worth asking. Yeah, that's such a good point. Thank you. And thank you for that success story. It's good. Because sometimes I feel like it's a bubble of advice. To actually hear that it works is great.
Yeah.
Great.
No,
That's great. Yeah, thanks. Okay, anything else about residencies? Hey. I'm really glad you asked that. That was actually another point I wanted to make, which I forgot because I didn't look at my paper. Yes, I think that vetting residencies in particular can be a challenge. I mean, we all know like the heavy hitters, the Skowhegans, and those that are on everyone's radar. But I do think that you need to be really mindful of the residencies that don't offer financial aid and charge pretty serious fees. What I do when I'm looking for residency opportunities for the artists that I'm working with is I look at their board. If you go on their website and you look at their board members, I find that that's a really good way. And first, do they have a board? Because they should, and for the most part. But I think looking at the board members and seeing like, are these like respected art professionals? Are these serious people who, are clearly committed to supporting artists? And I think it's generally pretty easy to gauge when you look at that. Like Skowhegan, for example, they do offer financial aid, but a lot of people pay, and it's really expensive. It's like $6,000 or $7,000. That would be a notable exception, where if you have the means, I would say, yes, do it. But there are a lot of artist residencies out there that are terrible, and they're really just kind of money-making opportunities, and they don't really provide what a residency should be providing. And I think that's another thing. If you look at what they're offering, are you getting to do studio visits with area curators, and are they doing programming? Will there be open studios? Do you have an opportunity for an exhibition at the end of the residency or at some point? All those sorts of things. Like, are they really doing the work for you that they should be doing to make it worthwhile? Yeah. Thank you.